All right. On today's episode, I welcome on a very special guest and also a recurring guest, Coach Phil Martelli Jr. He's the assistant coach for Bryant men's basketball. Coach, how are you?
Jeff, I'm doing great. I appreciate you having me back.
Yeah, of course, man. I'm so excited. It's been a little while since we've talked. I mean, you were one of my first guests I've had on the show, and here I am sitting at episode almost 178 or something like that. So how's everything going on your end? How have you been?
Everything's great. I will go back to. It is funny how long ago that was, and the first or second, maybe third episode, I think it was, and following it now and watching you, I'm happy for you because I know how much you put into it and the work you're putting into this and your blend. It's funny, like a lot of these podcasts I listen to, it's like basically the same. Like they'll get it's just coaches, and they get all coaches, or it's just players or whatever, and it's like yours is like from one week to the next. I don't know what to expect. Is it going to be some high school stud athlete in the state of Rhode Island? Is it going to be some coach? Is it going to be some entrepreneur? So it's been good stuff. I appreciate certainly what you're doing, for the state of Rhode Island, for basketball in the state of Rhode Island, for all sports, for everybody. So, but on my end, everything's great. Just finished up a fun season and jumped right into the spring madness that is our lives now of transfer portals. And we just finished up spring workouts. Our guys are in their last week of class. Just finishing up the last week of class this week and start exams next week. So they'll get away for maybe like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks before they come back and get ready for summer session.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks for the kind words. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's you bring up the transfer portal, which you guys had some great transfers coming into the school. I mean, about 5 or 6 guys that you guys brought in. You brought in Edert from St. Peter's, the guy with the mustache for everyone that knows. Antoine Walker from URI, Chauncey Hawkins from St. Francis, Kayvon Kramer from Hofstra, and Earl Timberlake from Memphis. Like, how important is it to getting these guys with the veteran experience on top of the veteran experience you already have with the team? Like, how well do you think those guys will mesh?
Yeah, well, it's huge to stay old, and Jared coming from Iona, that was their mantra long before transfer portals were ever even discussed, and they were way ahead of the curve and right on the money with it. And so, getting old and staying old is huge for us. I think all but one of our guys next year will be like 21 or older
Wow.
by the time we start a game. So that's huge. Like for somebody like me, like I started college, I turned 18 on August 2nd, and I was living in a dorm on August 30th, So and that was the norm, 20, 25 years ago. So now it's trying to stay old, and the best teams in our league this year, the Northeast Conference, are now moving to the American East. But in the Northeast Conference, the best teams were us, Wagner, LIU, and Mount St. Mary's. And we were the oldest teams, the most experienced teams. The youngest teams were the teams that finished near the bottom: Central Connecticut, Fairleigh Dickinson. Now, they had good young talent, but there's just a difference when you roll out there and, you've got a bunch of 23, 24-year-old men compared to some 18, 19-year-old, kids. So we've tried to stay old. We've had success doing so. And I think because early on, the Peter Kisses of the world, the Luis Hurtados, we were selling to them a vision of what this could be. Now, with these guys, we can bring Doug Edgerton, and we can bring Kayvon Kramer, and we can bring Antoine Walker in, we can bring Earl Timberlake in and sit them down and show them hard facts, video and stats that say, look, this is what it is. This is the jump that these guys have made. Even as simple, not just points per game, rebounds per game, whatever, but like Greg Calix. Greg Calix was 4 years at George Mason, played sparingly, came to us, was a great option behind Hall Elijahs at the 5, really played really well all year. At one point in time, he said to me, he goes, Coach, I've caught more lob dunks this year than I had in my 4 years. And it's something that you don't think about, but it is.
Yeah.
It's something we incorporate into our offense that I'm like, wow, like that's something. So we can use that now. I can say to Kayvon Kramer, like, you're an unbelievable athlete. Look at the ways we can use you. Here's like hard evidence of how we can use you and what you can do. Hey, Doug Edder, you took 100 and I think it was like 110 threes last year. we had like 4 or 5 guys take way more than that.
Yeah.
Our leader took almost twice as many as him, maybe more. So it's like, hey, if you want to play in this style, in this system, you're going to get more opportunity. And the reality is, for all these guys that want to be pros, more opportunity, more possessions, more production. And at the end of the day, that's why, Peter Kiss has NBA workouts, because he produced. That's why all these other guys have, multiple agents coming to meet with them and having opportunities to play professionally, because they produced in a system that allowed them to do so.
Yeah, it's crazy. And Peter Kiss was like the leading scorer in the NCAA and that, like, on the stage, and like it was crazy. Like, I don't think you ever really heard of him when he was playing before, and then he comes to you guys, and here he is, on the big stage, and then in the NEC Championship, like balling out, and they're like, like talking about him. So it's crazy, like what you guys have been able to do. On top of you have Charles Pride, who also plays great basketball as well too.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And it's a credit to our guys. And like the adjustment before we came on, obviously we were talking about, like, we've had success in the transfer portal, and it sounds good in April, May, June. When they get here this summer, we'll start to blend that. And it'll kind of be up to guys to decide, all right, because in the process, they all talk about, I want to play, I want to win. Okay. Now, if you want to play and you want to win, that may be some sacrifice on top of that. But what we've shown is, if you're willing to sacrifice, you're still going to have an opportunity to do what you want to do individually. We'll have a chance to win. And when you win, a rising tide floats all boats, right? Like, when you win, it opens up the doors for everything. All of our guys have gotten expanded opportunities because we've won. And when you don't win, it's just a matter of fact. People aren't banging down your door to say, well, that's a guy we want. So trying to build it, trying to keep going, and going to the NCAA tournament was nice, but we want more.
Yeah. I mean, it's awesome that you guys are building something great there in Smithfield. And you mentioned like blend. What do you do for, like, those transfers on top of, a freshman that you guys are bringing in too? Like, how do you blend those guys all together and get them to understand their roles?
I mean, it's a process, and that's kind of an overused word now in sports,
Yeah.
but it really is. Like, they'll get here in the summer, and it's the same with the process of them figuring out, like, we play fast.
Yeah.
Everybody, when you talk to guys, I want to play fast. Okay. Well, there's a certain conditioning piece of that, and a certain way that we practice that you need to be ready to go with. And it's not always for everybody, and that's okay. But the guys that buy into what we're saying, and a big piece with us is, like, we preach, sharing the ball, spacing, sharing, all those things. And when you get a group, and we had it this year, that your best players buy into that, your other guys around that buy into that. And now it's like, you know what? If it means Charles Pride's going to take all these shots and get 44 in a game at St. Francis, PA, because, Pete's out and Hall's out, and that's what we need to do to win, guys are on board with that. If it meant, hey, so-and-so, these guys aren't playing well, but, Adam Alita goes off and makes 6 threes, or Luis Hurtado goes off in the semifinal game and carries us back and helps us win a game. If you have that, and there's an excitement around that, that's huge, that the other guys can be excited for that. So we try to celebrate those things. We try to emphasize that, this is not a one-man band. We need everybody. And it's not different than anybody else. We don't have any magic wand that we use that, they're not using at every other school. But, getting them here, making sure they see the style, make sure they understand, like, look, this is how we play. And the guys that are willing to work and willing to put in the time usually rise. And the guys that are kind of in between, they kind of fall back a little bit. And then you figure out, okay, this is the group that we can play, whether that's 6 guys, whether it's 7 guys, whether it's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever number it is, that's what we figure out.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a lot of, just like with any program, it's like you have to buy into the system. If you don't buy in, then you're obviously not going to have great success of, like, what you've been able to do. And obviously it shows on paper. I mean, and we've seen it on TV and everything, of what you guys have been able to do so far, of, like, just being such a, you're something great is going on in Smithfield, and, Bryant's on the rise and like being talked about. Yeah, and it's awesome. So obviously, you guys have to buy into the system that you guys are building here.
For sure. Yeah, there's no doubt.
That's awesome. That's great. And then like touch upon the transfer portal a little bit more is like how important is it for like the transfer portal for small schools like Bryant? Like, they don't really get the recognition, but like you see like a guy like Earl Timberlake who was top 35 now he's at Memphis. Like how important is that transfer portal for schools like Bryant?
Yeah, I mean, and at this level, I think if you had 50 coaches come on from this level, you'd have guys that would be like, it's the worst thing ever because they've been pillaged from it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Right now for us, it's a great tool. We've done well with it. It's huge because you can get a level of guy that, we talk about like guys that you couldn't get out of high school.
Yeah.
And really, Chauncey Hawkins is probably a guy you could have gotten out of high school and ended up at St. Francis, New York. Other than that, these other guys were all recruited at really high levels. Antoine Walker went to Georgetown first. Obviously, Earl Timberlake was a borderline McDonald's All-American. Kayvon Kramer was a high major recruit, then towards ACL as a junior in high school and ended up at Hofstra, but would have ended up at Providence or, wherever, UConn, maybe, so it's a chance to get guys like that. It's a chance to get guys that have something to prove. All these guys have been through a situation where they didn't win as much, they didn't play as much, they didn't play as well, as they're capable of. So it's a chance to have guys that have a chip on their shoulder, say, look, let's go, let's do this. And for a lot of them, this may be a last chance, that, hey, you need to produce now, like you did whatever you did at your previous spot, it didn't work out. Okay, like, Peter Kiss, like there was a lot out there on Peter Kiss, like there was a lot, people talked a lot about him and it wasn't all great, from his times at his previous spots. This was a chance to have a little bit of redemption and say, hey, you know what? This is who I am. I'm a champion, and I'm not the guy that you want to say or you think or whatever. No, you're a champion now. And so to have guys like that are older, a little more mature, have that vision of like, there's a freshmen come in, they don't realize there's a finish line coming very, very quick. The older guys see it. They've been through a college season. They know how quick that goes. They all of a sudden they're looking up and going, man, I'm 22. I'm a junior. I'm a senior. Like the free sneakers and free meals don't last forever. So those guys have a little more appreciation for that and understanding that. And their urgency is a little better to say, all right, I got to go. I got to work and I got to prove myself, to let people know that this is the real, fill in the blank of the name. This is the real me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a great point. And that you made on that. It's crazy with the transfer portal. I mean, you see a lot of people's names get entered into it, and it's like almost like free agency for college basketball. It's very, very interesting. But you do bring up
it very much is. It's very much free agency, and with some of the NIL stuff that's way above my head, like it's almost like exactly like free agency. So.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I know. You hear some of the deals that some of the kids have gotten with the NIL, and you're like, wow. He's making more than some of the professional athletes.
Yeah, I don't even know. I don't even know how most of it works, to be honest with you.
Yeah, neither do I. You guys are now going to the American East Conference too. I mean, that's awesome. Like, great. Like, what was the decision to jump to the American East from the Northeast? And what are you looking forward to playing against some new opponents and playing against guys like Boston University and stuff like that?
So the decision was way over my head. It was, it was obviously made at presidential levels and board levels and all that, but it's a great move for us as a university. And I was talking to one of our admissions counselors yesterday, who has done an unbelievable job with our incoming freshman class. They just announced like they hit. I think they were like way over their like 200 or 300 over their target number. So,
oh, wow.
To be able to bounce back and do that at a school like Bryant after COVID and all that is huge. But in talking to him, there is an academic component to all this, right? To these conferences and alignments and all those. And it's why some of these schools have tried to, even at the highest levels, it's why, a Rutgers and a Maryland want to be in the Big Ten because of the research and things that they can share school to school. So it's the same at this level. What has kind of been relayed to me is, being linked up with schools like Vermont, like New Hampshire, Albany, Binghamton, UMBC, having those names. You mentioned Boston U. They're actually in the Patriot League now, but
Yeah.
Schools like that
Yeah.
that have a similar vision, have a similar mission, and a similar academic component to it is huge. So that's one piece of it. Athletically for us, it's a little better regionally, I think. Not that the Northeast Conference wasn't so regional either, but a little better regionally. Obviously the competition, somebody like Vermont, Vermont's been a staple for a long time, and they've won a lot of games in this league. So, we have our work cut out for us, but that challenge, to say, all right, let's go, let's settle up and, see what we can do with teams like that. And we've played a small number of them. To be honest with you, a lot of them have kind of not played us the last couple of years, but New Hampshire's always played us, so we kind of have an idea, and they've been good. So, we have an idea of what that looks like. Stony Brook is leaving the league to go to the Colonial, so we're kind of taking their spot, but we've played them the last 2 years. So we kind of have an idea, what these teams look like. And, we're kind of going through it now with a little bit of downtime to see style of play and different things like that. And, we'll do what we do and try to do it better than the other guys do what they do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And like you mentioned regionally, it sounds like a little bit better because you mentioned a lot of like New England teams, like you have Vermont, and like you said, Vermont's always been like I feel like they're always in the championship game and the American
It's
East.
unbelievable. I went through it last week, and I'm like, this is, and it, but then when you see it and you start like writing it down and you watch it, see it on the screen or on paper, I'm like, and they've won like 7 straight regular season. It's, and the only reasons they didn't win the championship game, UMBC, the year they beat Virginia in the tournament as a 16 seed, beat them on like a prayer, like had a buzzer beating 3 to beat them. The other year was COVID year. They just weren't, they weren't
snuff.
Like that those years I throw out the window. Like but yeah, like that's when they've lost it. So
yeah, they're really good. I'm
really
always good. Like I think one time I was up in Vermont and they had him on like a tournament, like they were playing for the championship. I was like, I feel like they're always in it, no matter what. Like you turn your head.
Always.
That's awesome. So I want to jump into this past season and want to talk about this past season. First of all, NCAA tournament berth, first one for Bryant. What was that experience like, and being able to make the NCAA tournament?
I've always said that my favorite day is Selection Sunday.
Yeah.
And to know your name's being called and to wait for that and to hear that and see it, and the commotion after of like, wait a second, who do we play and where do we go and who's in the other game? It's, to me, that's awesome. And I've always said that to our guys, wherever we were, wherever we were coaching, that that feeling, I wish it for all of them. So I was so happy for our guys. Championship night obviously is unbelievable, winning and cutting down the nets and the celebration, being able to do it in our gym with, a packed crowd. And it seemed like thousands of people on that floor after the game trying to navigate and see everybody and all that. Yeah, it's a blast. And it's a credit to this group. Like we had a lot of adversity early, and it was really our season this past year and the season the year before were kind of flipped, because in the 2020-2021 season, we rolled early on. We started off well and we rolled really through like late January. We hit a few bumps there. We had a COVID pause for a false positive. We came back, won a couple games, had a positive at the very end of the season, which put a couple guys in quarantine. We played a semifinal game without multiple starters. We put a football player, he practiced one day with us. We put him in uniform. We put a manager in uniform just so we had enough guys. We played a walk-on in that game. We won by 30. Wow. And then the next day, guys came out of quarantine and we played the championship, a day later. And we were just, it was just too choppy. We weren't ready to win that game. Guys weren't really ready to play, but you got to what are you going to do?
Yeah,
Like
you
it's
can't control the
starters,
situation.
it's a third rotation guy. So, we played and we didn't play well, and it kind of left you with that, like, man, like we were rolling along, and then you just kind of hit that spot.
Yeah.
This year was the opposite. And it was my biggest fear going into that COVID year was like, you play well early and then you have like a late COVID and you're shut down and can't play. So, we at least got a chance to play. We just didn't play to our level. This year was the opposite. We had some struggles early. We had some stuff kind of looming through the fall. We had a couple guys out early the first couple games. We then had like the second week of the season, we had I think it was over like a 2-week, maybe it was over a 10-day period. We had like 10, 11 guys test positive for strep throat
Oh
or
my
the
God.
flu. I mean, it was just, we had one guy had tested positive for both at the same time.
Jeez.
We were trying to play. I mean, we were getting ready to go play Clemson. We're practicing on a Sunday to play Clemson on Monday. And we started practice. We had 3 guys in the urgent care getting tested. Obviously everybody get tested for COVID. So
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
getting tested for that. Then they're testing them to figure out and it was just so hard. It just was and our schedule was tough, with Clemson and URI and, even like Brown was good. Dartmouth was good. New Hampshire was good. Stony Brook was good. Houston was elite.
Yeah.
Cincinnati was good. So we had a really tough schedule on top of that, of the choppiness of like, we never got into a rhythm. And then we got COVID right before Christmas. So that
Oh my
knocked
God.
we had like 5 guys test positive for COVID. We were on the bus. We didn't even know we were on the bus down to Stony Brook. We didn't even know if we were going to play that game because we were waiting on results and things like that. So we had 5 guys test positive, maybe 6. And then we got back from Christmas and that's when it started. We got into a rhythm, beat Central Connecticut at Central Connecticut right after Christmas, beats Sacred Heart here. Didn't play well in either game. Then Jared got COVID. So I had to coach the Wagner game at Wagner. We lose in overtime. But you could start to feel, okay, like we have it. Like we have it. It's starting to come. And then it just started to go. And all the best teams that I've ever been around, that was kind of the progression. You hit that mid-January and you're like, all right, we're starting to click. And then you click through the rest of January and into February and kind of roll through that. And that's what we did. So it was very rewarding from that point to think of where we were on, October 15th, November 15th to December 15th to then, hey, on January 15th, like we're starting to get it. And then February 15th, like we're pretty damn good. And then, to be playing on March 15th or whatever it was in the tournament, it's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, I mean, you guys started, like you mentioned, you guys started off rough, but then I think you guys rattled off 10 games out of, like, you won like 10 out of 11 games down the stretch to take you into the NEC tournament, and then which led you to the championship. I mean, when you, like you said, you started to feel the click, but was there like a turning point that guys kind of like, you're like, okay, did you think you were going to win that many games in a row, or like, was there like something that just kind of like snapped
To
and you
be
guys were
honest
just
with you,
going?
like we never really even talked about it. Like it just kind of happened, and it really was. It wasn't something we were focused on, like we weren't sitting here going, all right, let's go win 7 games in a row. Let's start right now. It's like, hey, what's this next one, and kind of roll. And we were still dealing with it. Like we had a crazy game. We beat, I want to say it was Merrimack on a Thursday night at Merrimack. We came back. We were supposed to play LIU on Saturday. There was snow. It was that bad snowstorm. They pushed the game back Sunday. We played them Sunday. It was supposed to be a national TV game against them. Good team. Team we've always had, like, kind of intense games with. Game gets pushed back to Sunday, so that throws your rhythm off. Me and Jared couldn't even come to the office. So the guys that were on campus, like, they practiced, but we weren't there, and then you're getting up and trudging through 2 feet of snow to get here and play a game. And we won. It was a little bit crazy game. We had some, there was a lot going on in that game, but we won. Now coming out of that, Pete ended up getting suspended for 2 games. Paul Elijah was hurt for that game, and we weren't going to have him back. And we were going on the 11-game losing streak. And we were going to have him back, and we were going to have him back. 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 And we were the toughest trip in our league at St. Francis, PA, which is just a miserable bus ride in the middle of nowhere. Then to Mount St. Mary's, who's same deal, kind of like a miserable place to go, but a good team, really good team. And so we're without those two guys, and you're just kind of like, you never verbalize this, but as a coach, you're like, all right, if we can split we just need to get one of these games, but it's going to be hard. France is a hard place to play, and Mount was good. And Charles Pride went off. He had 44 in the first game. He had 32, I think, in the Mount game. So he had a weekend. He had 76 points or whatever it was in 2 games. Was National Player of the Week. And you win those games. But it wasn't just him. Like, it was the contributions all the way around of, Erickson Band stepping up, or Joe Moon, who had barely played, had been injured and was a deep bench guy, goes in and makes a couple plays in the Mount game and blocks a shot, with 1 second left. And, you win the game, and you're like, man, like, how did we do that? But you knew once you came through that, like, you're on that bus ride on the way back on a Saturday night from Mount St. Mary's, and you're like, we got it. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to go win it, but you're like, we got it. Like, we have it. We have that gene that every team, every winning team, every championship team needs to have. And those guys came back. Pete came back the next week, and Hall came back maybe another week or two after that, and blended right back in. And, we were able to do what we were able to do. And, you need a little bit of luck. Like, we got a little bit of luck in that semifinal game with Mount St. Mary's. We're down. We're not playing well. It was the worst we played in a long time. We just couldn't get anything going. And, all of a sudden, Luis Hurtado makes a couple plays, and then Chuck gets fouled with 1 second left in a tie game, and makes one of the free throws, and then we roll in the championship. It's, you need a little bit of that too.
And two, and you guys went to and obviously winning the NEC Championship, which you brought up, which was absolute mayhem, being like on the court, 1,000 people storming. First of all, winning that, what was that feeling like? And like, what was the feeling going into the game as well too?
We were ready. We felt good going into the game. We had just played Wagner the week before in the last regular season game for the regular season championship. Our guys were confident. They felt good. They were a confident group. So the feeling going in was prepared. I think we felt prepared. We knew what we had to do defensively. We knew what we had to do offensively. It was going to be about toughness. They make it all about toughness. So it was going to be about our toughness. Were we tough enough? And, we had lost that game in early January up there, had been up most of the game, turned it over, late in the game, gave up an offensive rebound. And we talked about that a lot through the year, those plays. And to our guys' credit, they understood that. They recognized the mistakes in those games, things that we could have done better. And they had to believe, like, we were the better team. We knew we were better. And it was just about going out and proving it. And then, obviously to win the way we won, I wouldn't have expected that. I knew we were a better team. I knew we were a tougher team. But to win like that I wouldn't have expected that, and to jump them early and be up 36-6 or whatever it was. It was just, it's a credit to our guys. They clamped down defensively. Those guys, you could see the Wagner guys didn't know what to do. They're driving the ball, and Hall Lodge is blocking every shot. And then, trying to make a pass, and we're in their chest every time they catch the ball, and they just had no idea what to do. And then, it got us going. We got out and get transition, get some dunks, get some layups, hit some threes, and you're looking down at them like, man, they don't know what to do, and just was one of those nights. We've been on both sides of it, and fortunately we were on the right side that night.
Yeah. You guys really put the hammer down. I remember watching that game and being like, well, this is kind of can relax watching this game and not have to like.
I'm glad you could relax. I didn't relax until it went, that horn went off, and I'm like, all right, thank God it's over.
Obviously what's that?
I said, then you can finally celebrate as a coach for a minute. It's like the sense of relief, and then you're like, all right, this is cool. I'm happy for the guys.
That's awesome. It was cool. And then you had that, everything on the court, like everyone being on the court and getting to celebrate, cut down the nets. Obviously, then you had that craziness too on the other side with a fight, and they're in the middle of the game, which was like absolutely bonkers, and dealing with that. And then, but thankfully, that didn't hurt you guys in the way you played or anything because you guys were up so much already and
Yeah,
just kind
exactly.
of wanted to finish the game at that point, you know?
Exactly. You know.
Yeah, that's awesome though. It's congratulations to you. Did you guys get a ring out of that? How's that work out?
Yeah, we'll hang a banner. You know, we've been talking about that for 4 years, putting a banner up. We got our nets. We all have our nets. Mine's right here. Got mine sitting right here. Um, you know, so we talk a lot about that. You know, getting rings, getting nets, and hanging a banner. So that banner will go up. I'm assuming whenever our home opener is, and we'll get our rings here. I don't know, sometime soon.
That's awesome. That's great. How big has like, you know, having a guy like Peter Kiss and Charles Pride, like a dynamic duo of scorer, like helped you guys, you know, having those guys this season, what was that like for them?
Well, it's huge. I mean, it just goes to uh, the things that we preach every day:
Yeah.
competitiveness and hard work. And those guys are ultra competitive. They have worked super, super hard on their games, um, you know, to clean up deficiencies, to really accent strengths. And, you know, it's a credit to them. It's a credit to them buying in. It's credit to Jared and his, you know, Jedi mind tricks, you know, maybe,
Yeah.
uh, you know, with those guys. And a credit goes heavy to Chris Cole, our other assistant, who's phenomenal with player development. I mean, he had those guys in there all the time, working footwork and all these things that finishing and all that stuff that has really elevated those guys. You know, so it's a credit to all those people, and a credit to Pete and Chuck for buying in and listening. And you know, there weren't always good days. You know, there was plenty of bad days in there where it was like, all right, you know, this is not a good day. Either you didn't play well, or something went on, or you don't like something, or you know, and it was I credit to them to say, all right, I'm gonna bounce back. You know, I'm gonna bounce back in the next drill. I'm gonna bounce back on the next play. About bounce back the next practice, whatever it was, uh, to show that resilience and keep going. And
Yeah.
and it's huge for us because you know, leading obviously P was the leading scorer in the country. They were the leading scoring duo in the country. When you're an offensive minded program and you preach playing fast and playing free and letting guys play and take shots and all that, again, back to the earlier part of the conversation, like to be able to sell that is one thing, to be able to show it is another. And so now when you can bring it to those guys and say, look, and those guys took a chance on us. You know, Chuck took a chance on us when we were, you know, had barely won any games here. And for him to come, and the progression that he's made is unbelievable. I mean, he could barely get the ball over the front rim, you know, from three as a freshman, and
Wow.
you know, now to a point where he's a pretty deadly shooter, 3-point shooter. Um, you know, and same with Pete. You know, he'd been through the ringer, and you know, he wanted something more. You know, to his credit, he got it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, great guys. And I think great Charles is coming back for another season with you guys. So
Yeah,
that's awesome that you have him coming back, one of them part of the dynamic duel. So that's awesome. I think Charles will do some great work for you
and
guys
he's a
going forward.
phenomenal. I mean, Chuck's just a phenomenal guy. Like he's all about winning. You know, he's all about winning. And I've told him from day one, like what makes him good is that junkyard dog mentality. Like he'll just do anything for anybody. He'll, you know, he just wants to win. So when he does the dirty work, that's when he's good. You know, and I've joked with him. I said, when you want to be like, you know, pretty boy, be a star, like that's when you know, that's when all of a sudden you're like, man, what happened? Like he didn't play well. Like, but when you have that junkyard dog, that just whatever it takes to win mentality, that's when he's great. And to his credit, he has bought fully into that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's great guy. I think trying to schedule and I think he'll be coming on the show down the line for
Yeah, he's
sure.
awesome. You'll love having him on.
Yeah, yeah. I just talked to him actually. I asked him if he wanted to
Good.
come on. That's great. You guys are gonna have a great season. It looks like, you know, with everything that you're building in Smithfield and everything great going on, you know, a lot of like news and getting a lot of people's attention and everything like that. How awesome is that just to, you know that you guys are building something so great in Smithfield and Bryant is not an overlooked team in Rhode Island anymore. And I think it's named, you know, like maybe expect a tournament team.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and being able to see it. Um, Rhode Island's a great basketball state. It really is, and I didn't know that till I got here. Obviously, I've been up and played at I played at Keene more than the Ryan Center, but had played at both places, had coached, up here against Providence, against Brown, against Rhode Island. So I'd been here, but I didn't know, like, then you get here and you're like, man, this is a great basketball state, and obviously 4 tremendous head coaches. Ed Cooley is an outstanding coach. Mike Martin is a phenomenal coach. David Cox was a good coach, and Archie is an outstanding coach. So, and along with Jared, I mean, that's 4 guys that are really, really, really good college basketball coaches in one state, one small state.
Yeah.
So to have that, there's obviously really good players to see. Obviously, Rhode Island has had their successes, not so much the last couple of years, but obviously had some great teams in recent history. Providence to do what they did this year, for us to do what we did. Mike's teams at Brown are always super competitive. The Ivy League's one of the hardest in the country to navigate, with all that they have to deal with. So it really is to be able to make a mark in this state. When we got here 4 years ago, you'd have people, when I'd say I coach at Bryant, it didn't even like register. And now, I go to my son's in 6th grade, I go to his AAU tournament, and like one of the dads like comes right over and he's like, man, I have never met him. He's like, comes right over. He's like, you guys had a great season. I love watching the team play. I can't wait. Want to get up the games next year. Like that excitement, to have my wife calling me going, tickets went on sale at 4:00 and, so-and-so was on there at 4:02 and couldn't, said it was sold out. I'm like, yeah, I wish I could help them, but like, I don't know, like,
Yeah.
she's from Connecticut and she had, there's childhood friends and people in Connecticut, from in Bristol, where she's from, that are Bryant grads. One played tennis here, one played golf, one played soccer, a handful of others just went to school here. And like a couple of them came to games towards the end of the year and were like, I haven't been back to campus in 20 years, but now they're like, when do season tickets go on sale? I'm like, you can get season tickets in Connecticut. And like, yeah, I don't want to miss out. I'm like, perfect. Like, so that excitement, and obviously to be able to make that mark and to do something for the first time in school history. I'd never been to the NCAA tournament as a Division I school.
Yeah.
There's very few places in the country where you can do stuff like that anymore. So to be able to do that and say we were the first, and have the whole, not just the community on campus, but the whole community, I feel like wherever we go in the state right now, is excited. I was on the plane coming back from Philadelphia on Sunday night, with my 2 younger kids, and guy and a woman behind me. He's from Philadelphia. She's from here. And we just got chatting and walking to the baggage claim. And I said, I coach basketball at Bryant. And the woman turned around and she hadn't said a word. She turned right around. She goes, oh my God, you guys had such a great year. That was so much fun. I was like, here's this woman that we've been talking for 10 minutes. She hasn't said a word. Basketball, we're talking sports. We were talking, Sixers and Celtics and the whole deal.
Yeah.
And she hasn't said a word. And as soon as I said Bryant, she whipped right around and was like, oh my gosh, that was so great. It was so much fun. We were rooting for you guys. I want to come to a game. I'm like, perfect. Like that's what you want.
Yeah. Yeah. It's awesome. I mean, it's great. And it's cool. Like when you guys made the tournament and, you read stuff on Twitter and you see Instagrams and people are like right behind you. And same thing when you guys when you're playing in the NEC Championship, I'm seeing people's like stories of being and them at the game. Like I saw a couple coaches that coached here in Rhode Island that were storming the court. Like, like they're grown men, but they're running on the court. So it's so cool to, see that and like have that here in Rhode Island. And like, like you said, Rhode Island's a great basketball state and we have so much talent here, and as well as like at the college level too. And like you said, 4 great coaches all in one state. It's crazy.
Yeah, it really is. And it's a lot of fun. And hopefully my hope is that, let's hope it's next March, but one of these Marches, you're waking up on, that Monday after Selection Sunday, and it's, all 4 of us are going to the NCAA tournament. That would be a lot of fun. So that's what I'm rooting for.
That'd be awesome. That'd be really cool. I always said that I feel like there should be like an in-state like preseason tournament between all you guys, just to do like a Crown of Rhode Island or something like that. Yeah. I think that'd be kind of cool. Do like a fundraiser or something like that. Something cool.
No, we'd be all in for it.
So. Yeah. How do we set that up? Who do I talk to?
I think that's a good project for you. You got the pulse of everybody in the state, so you can make it work. And if
Yeah.
anybody can make it work, I know you can make it work.
I'll get on the line with some.
We've already run back classic, and we'll just
Yeah.
have,
Yeah, that'd actually be a good idea. Kind of crazy, but be awesome. Yeah, maybe I'll talk to some ADs or something. Got some pull somewhere. I don't know.
I know you got the pull. I don't have any pull. No one cares what I have to say. So.
You know some guys. Come on, coach. Well, coach, this has been awesome. Great talk to you. It's been a lot to catch up on, obviously, from the first episode that I had you on to today, which has probably been a little bit over a year. So, first of all, and before we sign off, one last question for you. What's your plans? Got any plans? I know basketball, recruiting, everything's going on, but you got any plans for vacation? What do you got going on for yourself?
Nothing. Hopefully I'll get down to the Jersey Shore. My family, we have a house in Avalon, New Jersey, which is so the Jersey Shore that everybody thinks of, like the MTV, Jersey Shore. That's like a little bit more. That's all north of Atlantic City. Everybody in Philadelphia goes south of Atlantic City. So like Ocean City, Sea Isle City, then Avalon. So we go to Avalon. So that's always like a destination for us. Try to get everybody together and be down there. So hopefully sometime in August I'll get down there. But other than that, right now I got a 10-year-old youth soccer. I've got the 6th grade AAU basketball tournaments. I'm trying to figure out. We're taping this the Friday before Mother's Day. I'm trying to figure out some Mother's Day plans for my wife. Which is not going strong, but I'll figure something out. I'm good last minute with that stuff. Not usually like well planned out. But other than that, nothing really. My kids are disappointed because my dad has been saying for years that we did a Disney trip with everybody. I have a brother who's 15 months younger who does basketball operations at VCU. Yeah. He's got 3 little girls. My sister has 4. She just had her 4th this year. She's a teacher.
Wow.
And her husband, they live in Philadelphia. He works for the Philadelphia Eagles, but they live down there near my mom. So we all went. My parents, me, my brother, and his family, our family, my sister and her family. So I think it was 18 of us went to Disney a couple years ago. And my dad said that we'll go back when everybody makes the NCAA tournament. So we were close last year. If we had won our championship game, because VCU was in and Michigan was obviously in. This year, Michigan was in, we got in. So my children have been like hounding that. They've been hounding, like, when are we all going to make the tournament so we can all go? I'm like, but it's a good lesson for them. Like, hey, if you do what you're supposed to do and you win, then you get the rewards of it. So, yeah, they've been dying for that. We're 2 out of 3 the last 2 years. We got to make it 3 out of 3 so we can get them back to Disney. So, but yeah, other than that, we don't have any. We'll be here. We'll be running around Rhode Island, hopefully trying to take in some more of the Rhode Island sites. We found a few little spots here and there that we really enjoy. And, it's hard with 3 little ones to really get out and do some stuff like that, but get down to some beaches and do some things like that. I got down there for a day. My in-laws got a place in Westerly.
Oh, nice.
Friend of theirs, so they had that last year, and the kids had a blast. They loved it down there, and it was really nice. I was down there for I think a day, maybe day and a half. So that was really cool because we really hadn't been to Rhode Island beaches and stuff like that yet. Yeah. So yeah, it was nice to see. I'm not a big Cape guy. We've been to the Cape. I'm not. Yeah. That'll probably lose me some fans on here, but I'm not a big Cape guy. But the Rhode Island beaches were really nice. So.
Yeah, they are really nice. Hey, if you're ever back in Westerly, let me know.
Yeah, for sure.
You need suggestions, or if you want to meet up for dinner or something like that, or lunch, I'll be happy to take you out, show you around, or whatever you guys need. Yeah, I'm right here. So, no, tough. I try to leave this place, but I keep getting pulled back in. So,
trust me, my short jaunt down there, I can see why. It's pretty nice. I enjoyed it. So.
Yeah, I moved up to Boston. I remember trying to go to the beach one time, and I was like, I had to ride like 2 hours to go to the beach. What the hell? Yeah. Spoiled, I guess, at that point, when you're 5 minutes away. But Coach, this has been awesome. Great talking to you. Great catching up with you. Obviously, great things that you guys are doing down over at Bryant, and congratulations with all the success, and keep it going. I'll definitely be at some games for sure next year. Just definitely want to catch some games and try to get up there. I want to take my dad up there. He's a Bryant alum. He used to play golf at Bryant, and
Tell me
I
that.
think
Yeah,
he's
we
one
got
of
to
those.
get him up here. That's a must happen for this coming season. So
Yeah, we'll get
I
him up.
got you. You're in anytime you want. I got you.
All right, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll let you know when we come up because I think he hasn't been on campus since he graduated. So I think it's been at least 40 years. So I'll have to get him up there.
For sure.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Coach. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff.